Hey guys, I'm John and welcome to my new YouTube channel, Orby Model Haven. I'm just getting back into scale modeling after a really long hiatus, and I thought it'd be fun to create some videos as I went along. So in this intro video, I think I'm just going to talk about a few of the model kits I built as a kid, and then maybe briefly cover a handful of the ones that I've recently acquired on eBay. Okay, so I was really into building when I was younger. I built a ton of kits from I think I started when I was about 5 and built through my early teens. At which point I got kind of sucked into some other hobbies, and I always thought I'd get back to model building, but you know, it just hadn't happened. Now 47, and you know, 2-3 months ago I really just kind of got the bug to start building again, and started watching a lot of videos on YouTube, and there's some really great content out there. If you guys want to see what I've been watching, you can look at the channel subscriptions for this channel, and you can see you know, there's tons of great content out there, and you know, I'll probably be talking about that. I've gotten a lot of tips and tricks, and I'll you know, definitely kind of reference those anytime that I mention something I got from another site. But you know, I've also just been collecting some supplies, you know, at Michael's and on eBay and Amazon, and then acquiring some of the older kits that I had built when I was younger. Actually, the first kit I ever built when I was a kid was a Tom Daniel kit. I didn't know that at the time, but when I started doing research, you know, I wanted to learn more about this little Mustang 2 funny car. I remember very clearly this is the first model I ever put together, and I think it you know, kind of inspired me to want to start building a lot of others. He had a whole series of these funny cars, and I had a few of them, and they were really cool. You know, they weren't super detailed, but they looked right. They had enough detail to make them interesting. And I didn't when I was first building these snap models, I wasn't painting them. I think on this one I actually did paint the silver on the back wings, but I think that's all I did as far as paint. But they came with cool decals, and were generally just pretty cool. I had actually done a little research to see if I could find one of these again. It seems like these kits in particular are really hard to find now on eBay. I did actually manage to find one at one point, and let's see, I think I have some pictures of it. Yeah. So this was one that I think somebody had got it at a estate sale and was selling on eBay. You know, like a lot of these older kits, unfortunately, it was already put together. It's actually, you know, not in bad shape for such an old model, but it did have a couple things I wasn't crazy about. It looks like whoever put it together actually glued the body to the front wheels, probably just to keep the top from popping up. But you know, it kind of defeats the purpose of having a funny car. And then there's like little parts missing. It looks like one of the wheelie bars is missing. But you know, so I didn't end up bidding on this one. But I would be really interested in picking one up if I could find one that was not built. But you know, that may be hard to find. I may have to be searching for that for a while. But yeah, I built a bunch of these the other kits. I remember this one. It's a Dodge Charger body on basically the exact same model. This one was called the Fiend, and there was another one. It was a Plymouth Duster. I think it was called the Ripoff. But I had a few of them, and they were really cool. So hoping maybe I could pick one of those up at some point. I did build a few other snap models in the really early days. I remember in particular I had a Firebird 400. It was molded in red, and for some reason I have a really clear memory of snapping the front bumper onto that one. I remember I had a first generation Mercury Cougar. It was molded in kind of a dark metallic green, and that was actually really cool. But then I did move on to building glue kits. Built a bunch of those. Started out, I'm sure all the early ones I did were basically glue bombs. But after a few years of doing them and learning to take my time, I was never a great modeler, but I did get to the point where I had some that I thought came out pretty good. One of the ones that I remember when I was really getting into the glue kits, actually there was a whole series of these 50s Chevys from Revell, and I managed to pick this one up on eBay for not too much. But I remember with these Revell kits just being really impressed with the quality and the detail. They seem to be a step above some of the other MPC and AMT kits that I had maybe put together. But I haven't looked too closely since I've gotten this, but that's the impression I remember from when I was a kid. And actually this was the last of these I built. I built 3 of them, and I sort of built them in reverse chronological order, starting with the 57 Chevy, and let's see, I think I have a picture of that. So I'm currently tracking some of these on eBay, and I'm hoping to maybe pick one up, but this was actually the first one of these that I did, and I think I got this as a gift for a birthday or something like that, but I thought it was really cool. I'd never seen a car like this that was really raised in the front so much, and I remember asking my dad about it, and I think he told me it was a gasser. I don't know if he explained what that meant or why it was raised in the front, but I thought it looked really cool. When I built this one, I did it box stock. I painted it yellow and tried to make it look like the one on the cover. Mine wasn't nearly as good as the one that's on the cover. This one actually looks like it was very well done. Mine was a little bit of a mess, but I thought it was really cool, and I was proud of it. And went on to build the 56, and then finally the 55. So this one came out the best of the 3, and I think that's just because I had gotten some practice and learned to take my time a little bit, learned not to use too much glue. And I remember I painted this one red, and it was pretty cool. So when I rebuild this one, I don't know that I really want to do a stock one again. I think it would actually be really cool to create a 55 gasser. I know this is probably not the best kit for that. You'd probably want to start with a Badman or a kit that was a little bit more designed to do that. But I think it could be done, and it might be really cool. So when I get to this, that's certainly an option. Another kit that I remember very well that I built is this Olds 442 Street Freak. This is one of the later ones that I built when I was getting a little bit better at building, and it's one of the ones that came out pretty well, and I was happy to put it on my display case. So I think this one, let's see, it looks like it's 1977 when this came out, and I think it probably was more like 79 or 80 when I put it together. And when I found it, I remember I found it, it was like in a drugstore or something, and I just thought it was really cool that there was a 67 Olds 442. I probably would have preferred one that was just the stock car. I know that there is a Lindbergh kit, a stock version of this particular car, and I don't know if that was available back then or not, but that's probably what I was looking for. This thing was really crazy. It's got the 2 engines, and I didn't know anything about the history of this car. Of course, back then I didn't realize that this was basically a reissue of a very popular model from the 60s called the Hearst Harry Olds. And, you know, that's actually, you can find tons of information. Any of you that are, you know, pay attention to modeling have probably seen this one before. You know, I did actually find this website, Sven's World of Wheels. This guy does a lot of really high quality box stock model builds. But he did the Hearst Harry Olds, and as you can see, he did a really amazing job on it. The detail on this one is really awesome. So, you know, that's really cool. You know, I think for this kit though, just because of the nostalgia factor, I'll probably just build it the way I built it when I was a kid. You know, I definitely painted yellow, and I don't know about the decals though. You know, I remember I actually didn't put the Street Freak decal on because I just didn't like the way that looked even when I was younger. I did put the flame job on, and I had painted it yellow. It was one of the better paint jobs I did back in the day. I'll definitely do this one yellow just for the nostalgia factor, but I think I probably won't use these decals. I might come up with something else. I don't know. Let you guys know when I get to it. But you know, this kit was you know, definitely one of the ones that really stands out in my mind. You know, if you just kind of take a look at the body on this one, you know, it's kind of like seeing an old friend after a long time. You know, I remember this thing really well. Cool little model. So definitely looking forward to building this one. And so the only other old model that I've gotten on eBay that I built when I was a kid is this Datsun 280Z Rally. And this was another really cool kit that actually I spent a lot of time on this. This was one of the last models that I built, and unfortunately when I was getting kind of the end stages of this one after it was all painted and put together, I was putting on these headlight covers, and you know, at that point I was, you know, I learned not to use too much glue, but I think I probably still had a little too much glue. And I tried to hold it down, apply some pressure just to get it to stick, and you know, it just popped off. And some glue went onto the hood, and then the glue got all over the lens. And you know, it just looked pretty bad. I had already put the one on the other side, so I just ended up, you know, putting it on. But it kind of ruined the model for me. You know, sort of embarrassed with that one, so I just kept it in a drawer. So hopefully as an adult I can avoid that particular mistake, and maybe it'll come out a little better. I do remember the one thing I didn't like about this kit, even back then, is was the rear. For some reason, you know, the bezels around the tail lights are chrome plated, which is definitely not correct and looks a little strange. So I definitely won't. I'll probably strip those. But also, just, you know, in general, it's a fairly well detailed kit. But for some reason, the back is missing some of the details that a real car would have. So don't know what I'll do about that, but I'll try to address it and do something a little better than the one that I did when I was younger. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, I've actually I don't think I'm going to start building with these old kits. I think I'm you know, I haven't built a kit in, you know, over 30 years, so it's I'm going to need to build up some skills, and I think to do that I'd like to go through a few just newer kits, do some stock builds, and then I'll come to these later. So you know, I think this video is probably getting a little long, so I think I'll cut this one off here. But in the next video, I'll go over a few of the newer kits that I've acquired, and then talk a little bit about the first kit that I'm going to build now that I'm getting back into it. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.